Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
CARICOM leaders have ended what they bill as a successful three-day summit in Grenada. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Friday, July 7th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Regional leaders announced a plan to implement outstanding measures regarding the CARICOM single market and economy. CMC's Nicole Best looks back at the 38th annual CARICOM Leaders Summit in St. George's.
The regional leaders said they have approved a plan to implement outstanding measures with respect to the CARICOM single market and economy, the CSME. The CSME allows for the free movement of goods, skills, labor and people across the region, but it has been hampered by bureaucratic red tape since it was first unveiled in 1989 as part of the Grand Dance Declaration. While the host Prime Minister and CARICOM Chairman Dr. Keith Mitchell did not elaborate on the plan of action, Guyana's President David Granger and Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness both spoke about the significance of the initiative.
We therefore could aim at food security as being an important element in our single market and economy. We've been able to make progress in terms of creating a single domestic space. 10 years ago, as you know, in Cricket World Cup, we made a significant step forward in creating that single domestic space, and we're on the road again. Secondly, we're moving towards creating a single airspace. And third, we're moving towards creating a single ICT space. So these are significant landmarks in creating unity, a movement towards the single market and economy.
We believe that the CSME is the true expression of Caribbean integration, especially on the economic front, and this is how our citizens would be able to truly identify with this regional process. Certainly as it relates to the implementation of the process of skilled workers being able to move freely in the region, we encourage our brothers and sisters in CARICOM to move speedily to have this implemented.
Apart from the CSME, the leaders examined ways to address economic growth, tourism, air transportation, and agreed to the establishment of a single airspace. There was also approval on a human resource development report and a review of the 10-year-old historic Port of Spain Declaration uniting to stop the epidemic of chronic non-communicable diseases.
We are aware that we have fallen behind in the battle against these deadly diseases and also in fulfilling the goals of the declaration. One of the most alarming signs is the high incidence of childhood obesity, a major risk factor for NCDs. And this is a troubling statistics in our region, probably throughout every country in the Caribbean region at this time. We have issued a statement reiterating our determination to curb the ravages of these diseases through legislation and intensified public education activities. We simply cannot afford to continue the lifestyle and food consumption patterns which are literally killing us.
CARICOM Secretary General Erwin Larocque said other important matters were dealt with, including the establishment of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency to be headquartered in Barbados.
You will have seen our head sign an agreement establishing the CARICOM Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, which clears the way for a significant amount of resources to be made available to facilitate and assist member states in developing the capacity for renewable energy and energy efficiency. And that is very, very important because we are one of the higher cost centers for energy, and energy is a significant factor in production and in consumer bills.
Another decision taken by the leaders pertains to the ongoing political crisis in Venezuela, where opposition forces are seeking to remove the Nicolas Maduro government. Prime Minister Mitchell said the statement urges all parties to commit to engage in renewed dialogue and negotiation.
In this regard, CARICOM heads of government offered their good offices to facilitate this dialogue. CARICOM heads of government mandated the chairman of conference to communicate with the parties concerned in Venezuela about this offer.
Haiti will host the Intersessional Summit in February next year, while Jamaica will host the annual summit in July next year. In St. George's, Grenada, Nicole Best, CMC News.
Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness is appealing to CARICOM leaders to debate the issue of crime and violence on the regional level, and he asked that the matter be an agenda item at the next CARICOM summit to be held in his country in July next year. Holness was speaking at a news conference following the closure of the 38th meeting of heads of governments in Grenada on Thursday night. He told reporters that while crime and violence had not been a matter on the agenda for this summit, he had taken the opportunity to raise the matter there.
I took the opportunity, though it was not on the agenda, to raise the issue of crime and violence, which is affecting almost all countries in this region. Jamaica in particular, as an issue which we have to address and grapple with in a serious way. I raise the issue from the perspective of not just a security issue, but from a macro-social perspective, that the use of violence as a means of resolving conflict, as a means of social control, as part of our social transactions, that it is becoming almost a feature of our societies. And governments have to take a proactive role in addressing this issue.
Holness also disclosed that the report of a recent study done on the regional integration movement by a CARICOM review commission headed by former Jamaica Prime Minister Bruce Golding is now being reviewed by his cabinet.
No, it is not that we think CARICOM is not important. We think it is so important that we would want it to function as it was envisioned to function. And which is why, instead of taking an isolationist approach, we have taken a strategic approach, which is to test exactly what is it that people feel, what is it that they have as their views and suggestions. So we have, in Jamaica, commissioned a review of CARICOM. That review is complete. It has been submitted to the Cabinet of Jamaica. We are now in the process of reviewing it. Very shortly, we will release it to the Parliament, for the Parliament to pronounce on it, and at the same time, we will make it available to the other heads in CARICOM.
You must have seen the executive summary.
I have seen it, and that's where it will remain.
Trinidad and Tobago has been named as the most dangerous country in the English-speaking Caribbean in the Global Peace Index Report 2017. And Opposition Senator Wade Mark has asked the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dennis Moses, what urgent measures are being taken to correct this negative image of the Twin Islands Republic. Well, Minister of National Security Edmund Dillon answered on behalf of Moses, saying that the country's image is not the responsibility of any single ministry or entity. He also explained that the country was on the list due to a rise in military expenditure. But Opposition Senator Daniel Solomon says the list indicates that more needs to be done to address the crime situation. We get more in this report from C News.
This country was ranked 97 out of 163 countries in the Global Peace Index Report 2017 as compared to 84th place in 2016. The report, compiled by the Institute for Economics and Peace, accounts for over 99.7% of the world's population. The countries were assessed using 23 indicators on the level of safety and security in society, the extent of domestic and international conflict, and the degree of militarization during the debate of the Bail Access to Bail Amendment Bill 2017, and Senator Solomon said the report results are startling.
It's going to affect the economy. So, Madam President, I certainly agree with the Attorney General's assertion that we are in a situation where we've got to treat with crime, and we must treat with crime as the #1 issue.
Senator Solomon made reference to poorer countries who did not rank as high as Trinidad and Tobago.
Haiti is 81, so we're ahead of Haiti. Guyana on the South American mainland was ranked 83. So we fall higher, more dangerous than these poorer nations.
Still to come, a word of caution to Guyana managing its newly discovered oil reserves. More news after this.
Join the Caribbean Broadcasting Union and its regional and international partners at the CBU Annual General Assembly, August 21st through 24th at the British Colonial Hilton Hotel in Nassau, the Bahamas, under the theme Digital Developments in Caribbean Media. Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Dr. the Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis, will welcome delegates during the opening ceremony. Guyana's Minister of Public Telecommunications, the Honorable Kathy Hughes, will offer a keynote address on digital developments in the region. See the launch of the UNESCO-sponsored Manual of Social Media Guidelines for Caribbean Journalists, with guest speaker Jamaica's Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn. And hear from international media players about the new developments in digital television standards in Europe, the US, and Japan. And this year's Caribbean Broadcasting Awards Gala at the Atlantis Resort Paradise Island is not to be missed. Call 246-430-1007 to book your space in the 3-day conference and exhibition. Don't miss the CBU 48th Assembly at the British Colonial Hilton Hotel in Nassau from August 21st through 24th. Discounts on flights to the Assembly on the official airline, Caribbean Airlines.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the color of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
Celebrating 40 years of fun in the June-July sun. Vincimas 2017. Enjoy the exciting blend of mass and painted steel and glitter. There's a Monday street party like no other. And the explosion of colors at Mardi Gras. Don't be left out of the Vincimas 40th birthday celebration. Evo 4.0. Evo 4.0. There's Kaiso and the energy at Soca Mona. June 30th to July 11th. Vincimas, the hottest carnival in the Caribbean. Check out Vincimas on Facebook or carnivalsvg.com for more details. Vincimas.
Ready for Mars.
Guyana is being warned to take into consideration some of the negatives that can stem from the discovery of oil. The warning comes from an African professor, Kennedy M. Kutu, who used his country as an example of how the discovery could also negatively impact the country. Royden James of HGP Nightly News has the details.
It is the hope of Professor Kennedy M. Kutu of the United States International University located in Nairobi, Kenya, that Guyana will seriously take into consideration some of the negatives which emanated in parts of Africa when those countries became oil-producing nations. Professor M. Kutu, who is also the author of Guns and Governance, made reference to the early troubles parts of Kenya faced when that country discovered oil. The professor's remarks were made at the opening of the Public Corruption and Oil Curse Symposium on Thursday at the Pegasus Hotel.
Now, when oil was discovered in Turkana, for the The other parts of Kenya, this is what they say: rejoice, we have discovered oil. But you see, these are the Turkana. The Turkana were asking, how about water? And so already you can start seeing the disconnect between the national and the local communities.
He also made reference to Angola, where there is said to be an open door for corruption.
Angola, you have 4.2 billion each year that is not accounted for. And so when we think about the resource class, it can lead to the social contract. The social contract breaks down because the government does not need the people. The oil is, the government does not need tax money. And so basically the social contract between the people and the government breaks down. And that is what has happened in Angola, where the government does not need tax money because the oil money can do the job.
In the last 6 years, there has been major oil discoveries in East Africa, the area which is being called the New Frontier. The professor said most of those areas where the discoveries were made are being marginalized.
And so with all these discoveries, what we are seeing is this has triggered investor and government interests from all over the world. And so, Guyana, be ready, because the oil is going to bring as many investors. And so this will raise geopolitical issues.
The professor highlighted that although most parts of Africa are rich, they are still underdeveloped. He noted too that most of the oil resources are in the pockets of the elites.
Trade unions in Barbados are planning a march on Parliament next Tuesday to show their opposition to government's austerity measures announced in the budget. The announcement came even as the unions appeared to be softening their stance on the issue. In his May presentation of the fiscal package, Finance Minister Chris Sinclair announced a 2% levy on all foreign exchange transactions, as well as an increase in the National Social Responsibility levy from 2 to 10%. Trade unions had been demanding a complete repeal of the levy or a coping subsidy for their members, but they now say they're prepared to accept a 50% reduction in the tax. President of the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, Mary Redmond, says Tuesday's march is only the first phase of action by the unions. The workers' representatives maintains the measures will result in increased hardship for Barbadians.
The taxation measures that have already, some of which have already been imposed by government, affects not just members of our combined unions, but every single consumer in this country. And so we would appeal to the public to join the workers of this country in our action on Tuesday. There are follow-up actions that we have planned and we have indicated to our shop stewards. They have, as I said, given us the mandate to move ahead, finalize, work out the logistics of those actions, and relate to them as we have solidified our plans exactly when, where, and how those actions will take place.
Coming up, Wendy's skipper Jason Holder tells his men they need to improve their game. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Ready. It's another episode when we out on the road. This is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink. King Baba and Nikita. Every fact that I go, you keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, cause that's my bitch. I don't understand how we're in a name tag on me.
Celebrating 40 years of fun in the June-July sun. Vincimas 2017. Enjoy the exciting blend of mass and panet steel and glitter. There's a Monday street party like no other. And the explosion of colors at Mardi Gras. Don't be left out of the Vincimas 40th birthday celebration. Evo 4.0. Evo 4.0. There's Kaiso and the energy at Soca Mona. June 30th to July 11th. Vincimas, the hottest carnival in the Caribbean. Check out Vincimas on Facebook or carnivalsvg.com for more details. Vincimas.
Ready for Mars.
Captain Jason Holder says West Indies need to find solutions to their batting woes by the time the next one-day series against England rolls around in September. Speaking following their 8-wicket defeat to India in the 5th one-day international yesterday, or that's on Thursday, which dealt the hosts a 3-1 series loss, Holder said there were issues which needed to be addressed and urged players to go away and work on developing their game over the next 2 months.
Obviously we've got to find ways, to rotate the strike a little bit more in our middle overs. Batsmen have gotten a lot of starts in the series but not carry on. So, as I said in the post-match interview, I think it's a situation where we've got probably roughly a month or two, before our one-day series against England. That's a perfect opportunity for guys, especially not playing in test cricket, to go back and work on their games and try to enhance their games by the time we start in England.
Holder said the innings had been hurt by the inability of the players to push on for a big score.
We weren't able to keep our wickets intact at crucial stages of the game. We lost wickets every time we seem to be gathering momentum. I can't put it down to the pitch. Just poor shot selection at the time. I felt that a few of our batsmen got up with some big overs, where we could have consolidated a little bit more and pushed the game a little deeper. But having said that, I must say credit to the bowlers. I think the bowlers came out and tried. The entire series they've been pulling us out the hat most of the time, so credit to them. Very disappointed. My plan was to go as deep as possible, but as I said, I thought our power score was 270. But at that stage where it was bad, it was quite difficult to get to 270. But I felt I went a little too early. I probably should have batted down and let another 5 overs and rotating the strike well because I was scoring freely. But just an error on my part, probably going a little.
Despite the batting lapses in all 4 completed games in the series, Holder praised the bowlers for the valiant efforts, oftentimes in pressure situations. Now, the Windies are scheduled to play India in the lone T20I on Sunday, but will face England in their next one-day series from September 19 to the 29th. Meanwhile, veteran West Indies woman batsman Marissa Aguilera says she is at a loss to explain the side's wretched form in the ongoing ICC Women's World Cup. The Caribbean outfit, the reigning T20 World Champions, have lost all 4 of their tournament games, along with their 5 warm-up fixtures, to be winless on the tour. On Thursday, their batting improved slightly, managing to muster 150, but it was not enough to press for their first victory over the Kiwis as they easily overhauled the target. Aguilera said left-hander Kashona Knight, who top scored with 41, deserved some credit for her fighting knock. West Indies are stuck at the bottom of the 8-team rankings without a point, with only pride to play for in their 3 remaining games. West Indies take on Sri Lanka in Derby on Sunday in their next game. CARICOM chairman and Grenada's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell is supporting his Vincentian counterpart's claim that Cricket West Indies, as a private entity controlling a public good, cannot exclude others from the issues surrounding West Indies cricket. On Wednesday, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez questioned the CWI's place as a private company managing the sport. Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown believes CARICOM should keep out of CWI's affairs, but Dr. Mitchell disagrees.
He reiterated the position that he has to move on this particular issue. And in fact, he used the whole concept of the public good when someone was raising, but the West Indies Cricket Board is a private institution. And there is nothing private about the West Indies, when in fact it's a public good, the southern region. And you check the Supreme Court in India and the result of their conclusion as far as Indian cricket is concerned. They were very clear. If you have a private organization serving a public good, you can't just be removed from what's happening in the country.
Over to volleyball, where Trinidad and Tobago seems set to be strong contenders for next year's Volleyball World Cup in Bulgaria. This after they whipped Suriname in 3 sets in the ongoing Kosovo Caribbean Championships in central Trinidad. TV6's Sergio Defort took in all the action in Balmain, Couva, and filed this report.
It's teamwork that won them the first match against the Curaçao, and Trinidad and Tobago look to be taking that momentum into their second match. However, it seems that they may be slow starters. The home team in red again losing the first set, this time to Suriname 22-25. The hosts would pick it back up in the second to reverse the results 25-22, and the seesaw battle would continue. The peak of the excitement came in the third set when Suriname won a hard-fought set at 30-28. The intensity dropped for the next 2 sets, while the red, white, and black surged. TNT closing out Suriname 25-21 and 15-9 in the final 2 sets. They win the match 3-2. The 8th team competition serves as a qualifier to the 3rd round of FIVB World Championship qualification to the Nausicaa Continental Championship in the USA. At the end of the Kosovo Championship, the top 2 finishers will join the top 12 qualification process to determine the eventual 5 qualifiers to next year's FIVB World Championships in Bulgaria and Italy.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the color of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
Join the Caribbean Broadcasting Union and its regional and international partners at the CBU Annual General Assembly, August 21st through 24th at the British Colonial Hilton Hotel in Nassau, the Bahamas, under the theme Digital Developments in Caribbean Media. Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Dr. the Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis, will welcome delegates during the opening ceremony. Guyana's Minister of Public Telecommunications, the Honorable Kathy Hughes, will offer a keynote address on digital developments in the region. See the launch of the UNESCO-sponsored Manual of Social Media Guidelines for Caribbean Journalists, with guest speaker Jamaica's Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn. And hear from international media players about the new developments in digital television standards in Europe, the US, and Japan. And this year's Caribbean Broadcasting Awards Gala at the Atlantis Resort Paradise Island is not to be missed. Call 246-430-1007 to book your space in the 3-day conference and exhibition. Don't miss the CBU 48th Assembly at the British Colonial Hilton Hotel in Nassau from August 21st through 24th. Discounts on flights to the assembly on the official airline, Caribbean Airlines.
Again, the major developments of this day. CARICOM leaders have ended what they bill as a successful 3-day summit in Grenada. And in sport, West Indies skipper Jason Holder tells his men they need to improve their game. That's Caribbean Newsline. Good night.